2006. How old were you? What were you doing? TSM's Björksen was 10 years old. The StarCraft champion Life was 9. The ESL started running Intel Extreme Masters in 2006. It has existed for half of those players' lives. Our beginnings were at a time when CRT monitors were still a thing, and Warcraft 3 was a top game.
Fly is really going for it. There are so many wisps there around.
By today's standards, it wasn't glamorous, it was little. We were talking about tens of thousands of viewers, not millions. But we wanted to travel the world and show gamers on all continents what esports was all about. The thrill, the passion, the joy, the hard work, the excitement. We started in the corner of a trade show, but this is becoming history. 50 odd events, and today we are here, in a major US sports arena. Intel Extreme Masters San Jose. This is the new chapter, and you are in it.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Intel Extreme Masters San Jose. I'm Evie Supporter, and we're broadcasting to you live from the legendary SAP Center here in downtown San Jose. And well, it's actually the first time that we come to a sports stadium in North America with the Intel Extreme Masters. So it's going to be an incredible weekend as we go looking for our next IEM champion. Now, let's take a look at the schedule to see what we've got planned for you guys. We're going to start off today with our 2 quarterfinal best-of-3 games, followed by our first semifinal, also best-of-3. Then we'll be back tomorrow at noon Pacific, which is 9 p.m. Central European time, as we kick off our second semifinal, also a best-of-3. Then we'll have our celebrity ARAM game, where Hotshot GG takes on Saint Vicious. I see you guys are hyped for that. It's going to be a lot of fun. And we will close everything off with the grand final, a best-of-5 to find out who will be our next Intel Extreme Masters champion right here in San Jose. That's what we've got in store for you. And now I'm going to let the guys over at the expert desk take things over.
Thank you very much, Shocks. I am Rivington Bisson III here at the expert desk with my brain trust for this tournament here at the Intel Extreme Masters. Steven Snoopy Ellis. We have Christopher Monte Cristo Michaels, and obviously Brandon St. Vicious DeMarco. Guys, thanks for joining me on the desk. We're going to have an awesome week. We kind of get to see North American scene plus a few other teams in the European scene kind of take a stab at 420 here. We get the new patch. We're going to be having a lot to go through. So let's take a look at the brackets first to see how today is going to roll out. We are going to have 3 games today. They are in best-of-3 formats. And our first matchup, as Shock said, is going to be that Unicorns of Love versus Lyon Gaming. Next up, we're going to have Pain Gaming versus Cloud9, and then we'll see between that first game of Unicorns in Love versus Lyon Gaming, who will face off against Team Solo Mid in the third matchup of the day. There's a lot to talk about as we go into this weekend. There's a lot for you, the viewers, to keep your eyes open and ears open as well, eyes peeled and ears open, if you will, for that and all the information we have. And there's so much to talk about. Let's start with the fact that patch 420 now, we're going to see these games. We've seen a bit of OGN hitting that up over the past few weeks. Start with you, Monte Cristo. You've kind of been, that's your realm. What have things been like? Just, has it been crazy? Has it kind of been relaxed?
Well, I mean, we're going to see a lot of differences coming in here. And I know that Steven and I, Snoopy here, have been watching some of the teams scrim here in the West as well. And there's been such a diversity in terms of the champions that we've seen. I've seen a lot of stuff in scrims that I haven't seen in OGN. I've seen a lot of stuff an OGN that I haven't seen in scrims, but kind of the main storyline has been a lot of these poke-oriented, big AP long-range mages in the mid lane. It's all about controlling that dragon. It's all about controlling the Baron fights right now, because that's the fastest way to victory. And those percentage stats that you can get from the dragon really do stack up in the late game. And that new Baron buff makes it mean that if you get that first Baron, it's almost certainly going to be an immediate win.
And talk about the stacks a little bit. Obviously, our junglers is here on the table. What is kind of the priority of Dragon now? Will we see teams kind of giving up first Dragon, allowing that to happen, want first 3?
So it seems that every single team around like 13-minute mark seems to prioritize Dragon. And that's why we're seeing a lot, as Monty said, a lot of these mages like Xerath or your LeBlancs or these kind of control champions that kind of dictate how people come into the Dragon. They basically poke them down before getting in and make a 4v1 happen, for example, very early on.
And that's like also the AD carries. It's leaked into the AD carries as well with some of the nerfs, but Corki, Ezreal, these champions that can poke the other team off of those objectives are very highly prioritized.
Yeah, I think Corki's going to be probably one of the top contested picks here. Like every AD carry I talk to, they're like, there's like Lucian, he's in there. There's like Ezreal, he's in there. But Corki is just like the Ferrari of the AD carries around. He does everything you need to do. He has a great power spike with the Triforce, and of course he has the poke.
So are we going to expect these to be kind of, as we went into Worlds, people said mid-game, mid-lane. What do we kind of think for this, Monty? What is the aspect we'll be looking at for these games?
It's, like I said, we may see some LeBlanc like we've seen in the Korean scene, because that gives you a hybrid poke champion, because she can get in and out so quickly with distortion that she can serve as a poke champion, as well as having that assassination role. But also champions like Xerath, we may see a little bit of Twisted Fate as well coming in. Just, it's all about that long range. It's all about the control that you get in the mid lane right now. Because if you can poke your opponent out of the mid lane too, it can give you a free shot at that first dragon, which is so huge, because those 8% stats that you get on AD and AP out of that, because it's a percentage stat, the longer the game goes, the gold value of that goes up and up and up and up and up.
So we have items, we have Dragon, we have a lot to look at in the game, and even some changes outside the game. We're going to be allowing coaches now. I want to get your guys' perspective on this. Behind the players, we've seen, you know, in the past, Team Solo Mid did make a swap because there was the happenings in Champion Select. Players weren't picking what they kind of wanted to pick. They were doing for themselves. That somewhat happens when people want to get it done, just make it happen. How have you felt in those situations, and what do you think a coach can bring to the table?
I think it's actually extremely important that a coach is in the setting in Champion Select, because what players do when they go into it, they have a clear strategy, they go into it. The coach sets it out beforehand, and it seems to be very clear cut, and they know what they're doing. And then for some reason, when they go into Champion Select, you'll know about this, Monty, it all just falters. It completely falters apart.
It's the wild card picks and bans, man. Somebody like bans something, like our whole strategy is revolved around picking Jace, and then like they first ban Jace, and you're like, oh my God, what do we do?
Okay, come on, man. I got to call you out a little bit here, because on your show, League Central, you were of the mind that these coaches were not going to affect those picks and bans.
Not for our team personally or something.
I want to get back to this. I want to get back to this later, but we do have to throw it over to Shocks right now. We're going to get the player intros and get those guys on stage.
Thank you very much, Rivington. It is indeed time to meet our teams for the very first quarterfinal here in San Jose. And first up, well, they come off such an impressive win in Riot Latin America Cup. Give it up for Lyon Gaming. Well, they certainly seem ready to go, and on the other side, they are the new kids on the block in the LCS, but it is their debut here in the Intel Extreme Masters. Give it up for the Unicorns of Love. Well, we've met our teams. They look ready to go, so let's go back over to our fantastic experts.
Thank you very much, Shocks, and ready to go indeed. And if you did see, jumping out first recklessly was Maple Street. And Maple Street and Dodo are actually going to be sitting in for Lyon Gaming within this matchup due to some visa issues. You know, what can that do to a team that's, both teams to start off have pretty much been together since 2013. They've been created, had the swaps, had switches, so they definitely know each other's play styles for who's on the team. But what does this do now coming into a tournament with a new bot lane?
I think it's actually going to hurt them quite significantly, because they've essentially lost their team captain and their AD carry. They've lost their team captain and AD carry, which is a huge loss coming into a tournament like this, which I think where communication is extremely important. I do believe that all the Lyon guys speak pretty good English anyway, and they play on the North American servers, so they'll be quite familiar with the bot lane that they're using right now, so it's not going to be too bad. But yeah, I think they will suffer. The captain, I think, is the biggest issue, not having their captain to kind of lead them forward.
Yeah, that said, though, they do have some pretty strong solo laners. I saw these guys last year at WCG when I was casting, and they put up a better fight than I would have expected against teams like, they lost to CJ Blaze in the end, but I'm really excited to see Porky, their top laner. I think he's an interesting player, and he has been able to carry. If we look at the Riot Latin American Cup, he was doing very well in those games. And Sia, he used to be a support player when I last saw him, has now moved to the mid lane, so it's going to be a big, major international competition in a new position.
And Saint, you said even within your scrims on Curse Academy, you guys got to play Unicorns of Love a few times. What were your takes on that, on those scrims?
Power of Evil he's just a crazy player. He plays a lot of off-the-wall picks, and he just he like shows up with all of them. It's like, I guess we got to ban that champion now. It's something you like wouldn't even expect that you play against. So I'm really interested in the mid lane matchup.
And how difficult does that become when you know if somebody plays something, you then have to ban it? People almost see that as like you've kind of lost the game if that happens.
Well, I think the coaching thing is going to help in with that.
Okay.
You know, he's going to be in there. He's going to be a voice. He's going to have a game plan for them, and hopefully he carries that through with their team.
All right, on. So the jungle, obviously, we're going to be starting off at 420 here. There's been a lot of changes. Snoopy, you're a part of those changes, being a jungler yourself. What can we see here in the early game? Obviously, Warwick and Pantheon Lee always going to be on the table here as we enter Champion Select.
I think we're pretty much guaranteed to see a Warwick ban. Oh, are we going to see the Warwick ban or not?
Is that poppy?
Pantheon's out. Oh, there's the Warwick.
There it is.
Well, it's actually happened, you know. Vizicachi in the promotion tournament.
Pulled out the poppy ban.
Pulled it out.
We've seen a lot of poppy scares coming in lately. Lucian will be first for Lyon, so they're going to try to get that bot lane of Maple Street and Dodo something they like, knowing that it might be off because they're not two members of the current team. They're going to give them what they want, as we may see a Gnar pick up here for Vizicachi on the other side.
Yeah, I think because they banned Poppy, they want to pick Maokai or some of those weaker laners that Poppy would counter. So I'm pretty sure that's why they also wanted the Lucian first pick as well.
Well, Lissandra's still up, and we saw in OGN, Lissandra does exceptionally well.
So
against
much.
Maokai.
Yeah, really good against Gnar, and it's a flex pick as well.
Yeah.
Also very interesting that they're going for the Lucian first here. Typically, when we've seen on 420 the games that have taken place so far, it's normally the Corki that's prioritized. Of course, Lucian does have that early, like kind of larger laning presence. The fact that Janna's up too, that Lucian Janna lane can be a real problem for Corki pre-6.
Yeah, I'm actually surprised that they picked Corki in their first rotation. I mean, they wanted to be ambiguous with their picks maybe, but I mean, you already know that they picked Lucian, and they're not going to be going for Corki unless they play it randomly mid. So I'm surprised they didn't pick up Janna or maybe one of the better contested supports.
Can teams somewhat get themselves into trouble coming in saying, this is what we want, no matter what they do, we'll kind of pick these anyways?
Oh,
kind of with
much
that
so.
Corki pick?
That's like the CLG blue strat. You know, you just go in with the one strategy, and then you tunnel on that strategy, and then it all falls apart, and you're screwed. Yep.
Oh, yeah. All right, so we actually get the Aurelia on the other side. Saying you're thinking Maokai, what's this kind of turn the tables for you?
I mean, Aurelia is like a pretty decent pick at a Gnar. It's kind of an even lane depending on the jungler. So I guess because they saw that Gnar was picked up, you can't pick Maokai into Gnar, and like you have to 2v1 it at that point. So maybe they're not confident in their 2v1. Because of course they lost their team captain. Maybe they're not confident in like the shot calling and the lane rotation. So they're probably just going to play this game standard and put the Aurelia against the Gnar.
I am really surprised that Janna has fallen this far down the draft already. But the Braum pickup with that Gnar, if you're looking for a massive CC combo, that could be devastating. You could win the game in one shot. And also the Xin Zhao. This is a jungler I have not seen on this patch yet at all.
I mean, he's like he's okay because he can sustain up in the jungle, and he's really brutal level 2 and level 3 gank. If he gets in on you and you don't have flash up, you're just dead instantly. Yep. But the one problem with Xin has always been that your only option is to go in the fight. And once you're in, you're in.
There's no way. There's
Pretty
no
much
way
have to ult and hope you're out of it.
Yeah, so it makes fighting over wards and things like that really difficult. I'm not too big of a fan of it.
Also seeing the Alistair pickup, that's
I was just going to mention
pain for like a melee champion like Xin Zhao to play against.
I'm also a little concerned just because Xin Zhao, in terms of ults, doesn't have great synergy with Gnar and Braum. If you're knocking everybody away.
That Syndra pickup at the end, that's one of Power of Evil's most like prominent champions. That guy plays a mean Syndra.
Syndra's also a very good pick into LeBlanc as well. You can hit LeBlanc with the stun as she's coming in, and you can actually stop her from shifting back on her.
I remember Pobelter doing that in the LCS. We were saying, oh man, crazy stuff.
Yeah.
All right, so it looks like we have our composition set up from each side. We do have a bit of poke coming in from Unicorns of Love. Obviously, that safety we talked about LeBlanc maybe picked up, or the Lissandras. It was a LeBlanc, but we are going to have Lee Sin versus Xin in that jungle. We'll be right back after this quick commercial break for more Intel Extreme Masters League of Legends from San Jose.
Welcome back to the Intel Extreme Masters here in San Jose. I'm Joe Miller, joined here on the caster desk with none other than Lee Demon Smith and Joshua Jatley. So guys, great to be back in this little tri-cast. You know, it's been a couple of years by now since we actually first tried this one out, and hopefully we got better since then.
Well, yeah, I mean, you posted a tweet of it the other day.
It was old.
I'm glad you sorted your hair out now. It's all good. It's
Joe has his hair
much cleaner.
Mine grew back.
Yours grew back as well, yeah. So it's, the IPL5. We're all back here in the Intel Extreme Masters San Jose. And obviously, we have some fantastic matches ahead of us. Best of threes all the way. Can't complain about that.
Yeah, and we should talk straight about this first game because obviously picks and bans already coming down. Jack, were there any surprises in there?
I want to see how the Sinjao plays out. Only because I've actually been seeing a fair bit of it when I'm watching like other regions play on the 420 patch. He is one of the sleeper junglers because he has fairly good sustain, and I want to see what his early gank presence is like, and particularly which jungle enchantment he builds. Whether he goes for the Devourer with the attack speed or the Warrior with the attack damage, because I think both could have their uses here.
And that's one of the big things. Obviously, that's the main focus for patch 4.20. It is clearly all about the jungle. What do we think here? Obviously, we've got Kikius coming in. Kikius is, for those that don't know, is probably the most veteran player on this team by a mile. Back in 2011, we were at World Cyber Games and we were casting Kikius in, I can't even remember the Polish team name back then. It was
XMYM, I think they were.
XGBT.
XGBT,
But it had the MYM players in it.
That was it. Well, that's what it was. I mean, it became the MYM team. Obviously, they went on, got into the LCS. But Kikius was back there. He's been through about 25 teams since then, all around the side. But they're back in the LCS. Yeah. And this is a very experienced team. That man on your screen there, Maple Street, we saw him coming out in his beautiful entrance to where he nearly fell off the stage. Yeah, Maple Street and Dodo. This bot lane, it's a completely new bot lane. Obviously, we heard Snoopy talking about it, how the fact that Nazgul is not there, and he's normally the shot caller for Lyon Gaming, that's got to be a big impact on this team, surely.
It's going to be a big mystery how Lyon Gaming performs in here because, believe it or not, they're one of the older teams in League of Legends as well, as far as how long they've been around. These guys competed in the International Wildcard Tournament in 2013. They've competed in WCG, the last League of Legends WCG, you could say. They actually did okay, exceeded expectations there. And there's almost no expectations for them right now. The fact that they're using different bottom lane, the fact that they will be playing in English, which a lot of them should be able to do. Sia, in particular, was a North American solo queue player, dropping in and out of the top ranks whenever he was playing on the server. So they're going to have some experience right there. And they're going up against the wildcard team, right? Unicorns of Love. They had to ban Poppy to try and control the situation. I'm excited to see these guys play here.
And that's the great thing about Unicorns of Love, you know, fresh into the LCS. We know they've got the caliber, but how much of a caliber? It's nice to see a team coming through that almost is an unknown package overall. And I think a lot of people are tipping Unicorns of Love, especially with all the changes and, you know, certain recent changes, you know, with Fnatic falling to pieces and what have you. tipping these guys to actually do really, really well in the spring split of the LCS next season. All starts here, though. This is where we can see exactly how good they are on a brand new patch, which is always a difficult thing. Like, it'd be silly for us to make any kind of assumptions about any of the teams that are actually in this tournament, whether it's TSM, Alliance, Cloud9, or any of the other teams in the quarterfinals. But we are going to be getting into game number 1 of Lyon Gaming and the Unicorns of Love.
And I really just want to see how these teams adapt to the level 1 jungle. So for those of you that haven't been keeping up with the jungle starts that have been going on, most junglers would start at the Krugs, which is what the double golems are called now, or the Gromp, which is where the white used to be, or it's a frog right here. However, in some OGN games and in a lot of North American and European scrims, the bottom lane will take one of the camps so the AD carry can go to lane at level 2, which then creates a very predictable jungle route by the other player. So obviously it's going to be this evolving chess match, and I'm just wondering where it starts here. Are we already on the 2nd or 3rd step? Or are we literally just going to see junglers with a standard start and no jungle invading? Early on, they're really just trying to scout out where everyone is with the defensive lines.
I'm very sad that the game designers didn't pull through Freak's best invention, honestly, that a lot of people didn't really know about, which was, of course, Larry White on the left and Barry White on the right. I mean, they were the best names ever, but unfortunately now they're just Gromps, which, you know, not quite got the same ring about them. But here we go. It is going to be a Gromp start, as you can see. It looks like for Porky and Thyak. It's going to be obviously a good, strong leash. He's going to probably smite that start of that one. And as you said, ooh, this could be a different one.
The jungle starts are being dictated by the bottom lanes here, because both of the bottom lanes are wanting to take the AD carry for level 2. The way this works, if you guys want to do it at home, is the support, since they start with nothing but health potions pretty much, if you do the right mastery, you can get 4 potions. You can see Dodo7 has 3 biscuits and a mana pot. They just tank the damage while the AD carry kills it. They go away right at the end, give all the experience to the AD carry, and use the health potions to recover. They end up missing 1 or 2 minions in lane, but the fact that the AD carry is level 2 would win them the lane if the other team didn't end up doing it. Sometimes they share. We'll see what they do. They're going to share.
Yeah, sharing that one out, and that will bring Lyon into that bottom lane. And this is a really, I think, a factor for Lyon that we can't really say just yet what's going to happen there, whether they're going to be dominant in lane, you know, being a pair that have been together for a while now, or whether Unicorns of Love are going to have the strong point there. We see Thyak actually getting his blue buff at level 2 now after his little start over by the Gromp. Kikis also on his red on the top side with that Xin Zhao.
And you really have to track health potions on junglers on their first clear as well. Oftentimes, they will back after 3 camps, but a jungler like Xin Zhao would have the sustain to be able to either go for some early counter jungling or really pick his own path. But as you said, Joe, yes, if there's going to be an advantage here for Lyon, it might end up coming from the bottom lane duo.
And let's talk about the mid lane, because we haven't really had a good look at them. Sia versus Power of Evil. Now, Power of Evil came through as honestly somewhat of a superstar in Europe. Someone that I am very excited to see if they do get through, if he can face off against Bjergsen, but he's got to get through Lyon right now. And this is something we've seen a lot of over in OGN. We've seen the LeBlanc versus Syndra battles. We saw a fair amount of it back in Season 4 as well, or 2014 season.
Yeah,
it's a very tricky matchup, because if you miss that stun, you are pretty screwed.
I pretty much just only see LeBlanc win it, right? You can get by with Cinder. I've seen Voyboy have some really good Cinder games against it, but then by the end of the game, someone will dodge one of the stuns and go instantly kill him.
Yeah.
Now that LeBlanc doesn't have the silence, obviously the matchup is a good bit more balanced, but we'll have to see here. Kikis going to get some help, and a stun is landed.
Stun is down, and can they actually lock him up? There's a W coming out, and Kikis getting in there. The chain was already down, and Seiya not actually burning a flash there, which is, I suppose, the best that could really come out of that situation. First gank coming down, Seiya is able to just walk back.
It would have been nice if Seiya could have somehow burned his distortion before that gank happened, if Kikis wanted to actually have a chance. The fact that he had LeBlanc passive and his distortion up made it pretty much impossible. And if Kikis would have continued the gank, he would have actually been chained under turret range and ended up giving up a kill. So it was a well-played counter.
Oh, it's a good gank down the bottom, though. Can they lock on towards Hylissang? Hylissang gets away. Can they turn it around? Vardak's going to put the pressure down on towards Dodo. Will get the stun, but there's no damage to follow through. And that was just a simple reaction to the gank in the mid lane. Kikis returning back to the jungle in that top lane. Has yet to go back and buy. Now he's going to go back. He's been a long time in that jungle before buying.
Yeah, and we also see the first of the new items here at Intel Extreme Masters coming out. Ranger's Trailblazer for Thyak. Jack, Is that what we're expecting to see from a Lee Sin, and how do you think that's all going to really evolve?
I'm going to say on this patch, every single jungle will build Rangers Trailblazer aside from Warwick. Only because it gives you the reduced smite cooldown. All the pros have been doing this, A, because the sustain is good, but B, you just get more smite buffs. It's better for counter jungling, it's better for clearing, it's better for ganking because you're a higher level and at higher health. So while it's at a 45-second cooldown for smite, once you get that upgrade, everyone's going to be doing Trailblazer.
And there was Styak actually walking in. Ward was already down, though, from Unicorns of Love's side in the bottom of that river. And we also see the first time that the crab goes down. And obviously that gives you then pretty much free vision plus the speed boost to get in there for a quicker gank.
Crab control. At this point in the game, the first crab is really easy to take. Honestly, I don't think it's that important. Generally, junglers shouldn't be ganking through the river anyway because it is usually littered with wards. As far as Lee Sin is concerned, it's actually a great tool for him to sustain since it doesn't hit back and he can heal up a little bit on it. It gives very small amounts of experience in gold. So that was just kind of a thing he was doing to maybe even set up this gank.
Kiki's on a bit of counter jungling himself, but you can see Thyak is waiting in the wings off the side there. Can he land anything on Power of Evil? Sia goes in, lands the leash. That's going to catch on towards him. They should lock him down. This could well be first blood. Power of Evil, though, gets away. The flash was burnt. But wow, they should have had him, I feel there.
I feel like Power of Evil was incredibly greedy with his flash right there. I think if he could have easily flashed earlier and not had to back immediately afterwards. And likewise, I feel like Sia was expecting him to be more free with his flash. Otherwise, I think he would have used the Ignite. That was just a strange gank situation.
Well, it means that middle lane should be a bit more of a catch-up for Sia since Power of Evil had to return home. We talked earlier about this bottom lane, that the fact it might be the strongest part of Lion's game just due to the fact they brought in Maple Street and Dodo 8. We'll see about that. Currently, there are a few CS ahead, but by all intents and purposes, pretty level on that front. And there is Thyak actually spotting out that ward, thanks to the buff from the Raptors.
I love the Raptor buff in the jungle. It is probably my favorite thing to smite, especially with Rangers Trailblazer, because it gives you so many ward killing options. Unfortunately, since he consumed the Raptor buff, he didn't know that pink ward was in the brush. If he had still had it, it would have actually alerted him and he would have went to check for it. So he's completely spotted here by Power of Evil, and he would be getting counter ganked, but if they just send the entire kitchen sink at him, it won't happen.
Yeah, there's a lot of movement here for Lion. They've got, obviously, Aurelia coming down. You can see him just above the red buff. Looks like he's going to return back instead. Dodo's going to get locked up, and he goes down, just destroyed by the combo of Power of Evil and Kikis.
Pink ward bait at that point. It was just a big mistake by Dodo. No communication from the team right there. And this could very well just give the first dragon to Unicorns of Love, because Alistair was incredibly risky doing that at level 4 as Alistair.
However, they have managed to put a bit more presence on that dragon area, and it seems like they've done enough here, Lion, to stop Unicorns of Love actually finishing that one off. Thyak once again coming around and able to switch things up. Meanwhile, Vardax and Maple Street going a little bit head-to-head down in that bottom lane, trying to keep control of that lane, or to gain control of that lane, really, because neither of them had solid control of it. That reflected in the CS that's still very, very close.
We'll have to see when the first shop trip comes, because Corki and Lucian with different item builds will actually hit somewhat differential power spikes. But to kind of go back to the dragon, we jumped the gun there. We're like, oh yeah, early game kill, 8 minutes into the game, time to do dragon. We're going to have to recalibrate, as well as the players, when exactly the dragon can be taken. Now on this patch, there are some games you can play with Dragon if you can cancel his attacks properly, or you're playing the right champion to take almost no damage from it. But if you're a little bit pressured by the enemy team, that goes out the window, and the Dragon will demolish you early on in the game as far as how much damage he was doing. And that's what happened to Unicorns of Love there. They weren't directing the Dragon's auto attacks properly. They weren't bouncing it at all. So when Lion showed a little bit of defense, they had to back away straight away, because they would have lost a fight even though Dodo was already dead.
And that's one of the things we need to look at as well as we move in, more for the teams themselves, because there's a hell of a lot of debate. It's like whether it's worth defending that first dragon. Obviously, you think back to the Gambit days, it's something they always used to do. It's like, well, we'll either take it constantly or we'll just ignore it. Well, you can't do that now, because obviously the bonus builds up, the patches brought in this 5-stack option. But the question is, at 10 minutes, 8% damage, is it that big of a deal? And that's really the argument. Can you get more gold from maybe pushing a tower in the top lane? and then going to get dragons later on, or just giving up that first dragon. It's interesting to see, especially as this tournament progresses, because we haven't seen a great deal of obviously over in the OGN that's happened obviously this week, and here at the Intel Extreme Masters San Jose, just how these teams are going to affect it, because there's always going to be some sneaky tactic that people find that works the perfect meta at the moment. Sia is stunned up, but Power of Evil's not going to be able to follow that one through. So back off. I'm so excited to see how this tournament is going to develop, honestly, with all these changes.
Both from a team perspective, because we have a lot of new stuff to look at. We haven't seen Cloud9 in the wild. TSM is apparently really, really good right now. We get to see Reckless on Alliance. Unicorns of Love, who we're seeing right now, potentially a dark horse to be one of the top teams in Europe next split. And all the new gameplay stuff. So funny happened, and we missed some action when we talk about it.
Yeah, Power of Evil there, not able to get away from that, and a lot of crowd control coming out when you factor in that level 7 Lee Sin, who could come in there, kick you back. Alistair, of course, as Dodo was once again on top of that pink ward that cost him first blood earlier. You were wondering if there was a bit of deja vu about to creep in from that one, but actually they were able to get across, get themselves that kill, and now Kikis needs to be careful. That's a great flash, last second to get away from the Lee Sin Q. Has to actually use his ultimate there to keep Dodo away.
And this is where Unicorns of Love needs to put pressure on Maple Street. Alistair should not be allowed to roam around like that.
And they're going to try that. They're going to go on towards it. One more shot. There it is. They get the kill. Maple Street goes down. And honestly, going back to Kikis' awesome play, I think he was completely distracting them. They could and should have gone for Dragon back there, but instead he put pressure on that mid lane turret, and they turned around and they had to deal with him.
You're absolutely right there. And honestly, Unicorns of Love, even though they got caught out of position, did make the right counter play right there, and it's going to be a bit of a back and forth. Like you said, that dragon is a big curiosity. When are they going to be going for it? Because the judging of the damage from that dragon and exactly when you can take it hasn't really been perfected yet.
Oh, and Power of Evil may become a target once again. See that Sayak is waiting. However, in the top lane, Porky taking a lot of damage here, gets the stun off onto Vizichachi, but there's not enough damage there to actually finish off the kill. Fayak is still waiting in there. Power of Evil gets a good stun down, but will it be enough? There is the big knight going down. Power of Evil does get kicked, and they trade off 1 for 1.
If you're going to do it, that's one way of getting the trade with LeBlanc. I still feel like Sia ends up winning that trade despite him being the first one to fall. Getting the gold from the assist pool as well as the kill gold will be their little advantage. Knowing Lee Sin is down on ultimate, though, is now the time for the Dragon. They have the tankiness and potentially the sustain to do so.
Yeah, very well played. You can see Maple Street having to dash away from Vardax. This is one of the battles that we were interested to see how this one was going to work out right now. Hylissang's pushing him, Kikis comes in, dashes, flashes on him, and just melts him where he stands. Maple Street had no chance.
Not once he got hit by the Braum slow, and Kikis was in just the right position. To go back to an earlier question we had about jungle items as well, he's gone with the Devour enchantment. So he is now stacking up magic damage on hit. This is my favorite Xin Zhao build, actually. He's an attack speed-based champion. He will go full tank after this, but still be doing a lot of damage. Let's see how they tank this Dragon aggro, and let's see a steal attempt from Fiak.
Oh, he's going to go in there. Oh, he's managed to steal it away as well. And I was going to say he gets away from it, but couldn't quite escape. But 1 kill for that first Dragon. Is that going to be worth it for them?
Yeah, I think a steal at this point in the game is absolutely worth it. However, the rest of the team is falling pretty far behind. Something we haven't touched on whatsoever is this top lane of Vizichachi and Porky. The Gnar is destroying Aurelia. We don't see Gnar that often. It's kind of because of this.
Yeah, and we don't see Gnar that often because he's just banned half the time. That's one of the new things that, honestly, obviously, he wasn't available at Worlds. Power of Evil once again getting caught out. We talked about this. It's a tricky combo in that mid lane. And this tower in this top lane, Porky's, is going down. Vizichachi, one more strong push, and maybe this is going to be the siege minion line that comes through. Will be the one to force it back. Hylissang caught out of position. He's going to get locked up. Thayak goes in, just forces him away as he dashes back to Power of Evil. The pressure very much on, and it's Unicorns of Love that are starting to apply it.
Oh, there is a stun coming down. Vizichachi is going to transform. Actually, he's going to knock Porky against the wall. And this is surely a kill. A last-second flash, though, from Porky. Gets him back far enough behind the tower. You have to feel that Vizichachi might have been able to follow through on that one and get the kill.
Yeah, I just think it was great flash timing by Porky to get away, because once he'd lost the damage from his leap there, flashing in for an auto was pretty dangerous, knowing Aurelia has the stun up, but he's getting his job done regardless, because he was able to get the solo turret kill. He's up 50 CS, and despite not getting that kill, it's not like he's somehow losing control of the lane.
At the moment, Power of Evil, good stun straight onto Sia. Beautifully delivered there. He has been landing them very well earlier on. Of course, he caught Thayak as he came in from the side. Very good reaction times from him. Power of Evil, despite the fact he is up against a very active mid lane that are trying their best to double combo him, is doing a good job of staying alive.
We wanted to see how good Power of Evil was in the mid lane, and I think we're going to get a chance to here this weekend, because I'm expecting to see a lot of him here. And you can also see how the matchup has fundamentally changed between LeBlanc and Syndra with the loss of the silence. During the all-ins, LeBlanc has to be so much more cautious, and it gives so much more flexibility to the Syndra player, Power of Evil in this instance, to counter with stuns and get his ultimate off. He no longer has to do it all in a quarter of a second. He can make sure to land the spells in the right time. He actually gets the Raptor, but doesn't go and check the brush. That's an unfortunate read of that ability. He's looking for the ward. He didn't check it in the brush.
Which is, for me, where you'd go when you were going to try with that one. Either way, he's going to back away onto his blue buff. That will, of course, be gifted over to Power of Evil. Let's check in with his bottom lane as well. And since those couple of kills, I say a couple, I mean, it's a 3-0-0 Corki now. Trinity Force done. Only the BF Sword and Pickaxe for Maple Street. And whilst it was, in the early game, a very, very even lane, that has certainly changed in favor of Unicorns of Love. And now they're just going to start to put the pressure onto the tower. Try and finish that one off. Funnily enough, only one tower so far has gone down in this game. And of course, in favor of Unicorns of Love in that top lane. And speaking of the top lane, Vizzy Chachi's come down. Power of Evil once again, throwing everything that he could onto Sia. And that will be turret number 2. No one to defend that middle outer tower.
Well, look at these builds, too. They're Morellonomiconing each other, so the burst damage is so much higher because no one's building magic resist. All these turrets falling down as the pressure is just collapsing upon Lion.
Unicorns of Love just stacking it up, pushing down. They're still not done here. They're chasing on towards Maple Street. There's going to be Dodo going in. I'm not sure what he's thinking. He thinks he's got the support, but just has not got enough. The fact that 5 members of Unicorns of Love are now stacked down his bottom lane, they could keep pushing on the tower. I think they're going to choose to back away, but they are now 7-2 up. And that is giving them a fairly hefty 6,000 gold lead.
And it's the whole map that is working for Unicorns of Love right now. Even though the majority of the advantage will show kind of in the bottom lane with the 4-0 Corki, that was only because Dodo tried to make a play happen by roaming as Alistar, since the other lanes weren't necessarily going as planned. That made Maple Street very vulnerable. Vardags has had the benefit of being in basically a 2v1 to accumulate most of that advantage. And now, since the other lanes have still worked so well because the Alistar roam hasn't been super effective, is putting all the edges in Unicorns of Love's favor, especially if they can control the next dragon, so they too can get the 8% attack damage and ability power. It might just be a snowball from there.
Well, let's find out right now. Hylissang is clearing out. We did see him get into a little bit of trouble on that exact brush earlier on, but was able to dash off to his mid laner, and nothing was followed up after that. We also see that blue buff, of course, going over to Sia. Thayak, in the meantime, just taking down the crowd before that top lane. But honestly, that top lane is pretty much long gone if you've been watching that one. Obviously, no Trinity Force just yet for Porky. On the other side, we see Dodo trying to make the play onto Vardax, and, well, he just headbutts him away into the brush.
He was actually hoping to interrupt the Valkyrie and hit him backwards, because if you headbutt someone, it will cancel their current move order, but he got far enough away from Alistar that the headbutt sent him in the wrong direction, and he ended up just looking kind of silly.
Yeah, this is a bit of a shame. Okay, so Vizzy Chachi making his way down. Looks like they're grouping here. They're pushing towards the mid lane. This is a full team push, it seems, for Unicorns of Love. Everybody heading that way. Dragon is up in 15 seconds time, so almost certainly is going to be the focus targets for Unicorns here.
Yeah, Kiki's with that Raptor buff as well. It's when he gets the exclamation marker above his head, he gets oracles for 10 seconds with which he can go and kill any ward. It only activates whenever he's in range of a ward. It is so effective. And honestly, I feel like Lion is just running into trouble if they try and contest this dragon, because most of the vision control is in Unicorn's favor. and they'd basically just try and get another steal.
Yeah, most if not all of the vision is in their favor at this point. There's a 5-man Unicorns of Love team. Lee Sin is on the bottom side, but honestly, they're pretty much just body blocking it. That Q shouldn't be able to get through. And there is the Dragon going over to Kikis. He finishes that one off. And now, what are they going to do? They need to deal with Irelia in the top lane, but there is Power of Evil flashing in and gets the kill. See you once again going down. And that leaves Power of Evil with 3 kills to his name. Porky's still pushing that top lane, but he needs to come back because his mid lane might be in trouble.
This is just going from bad to worse. You would want the Irelia to continue that extension, but then because LeBlanc was picked off, they have no way of defending these turrets. Complete control of the Unicorns.
Dominant stuff. So, tower down, Dragon down. So it's one apiece in Dragons. Got to keep your counter on that one. Of course, it does give that 8% damage and ability power. And see, it's a fairly big buff, especially at the 20-minute mark when you start getting some of those items in. They can see, obviously, Deathfire Grasp now completed. So adding to that 100+ AP,
we
an
just
8% stack is pretty big.
We just got to start thinking about it in terms of absolute gold value right here. Look at the AD carries. They're both sitting around 200 attack damage. You look at a longsword, it's 360 gold for 10 AD, which basically means every point of AD is 36 gold. If you're up at 200 gold and you're getting 200 attack damage, and you're gaining 8% extra of that, we're talking 16 to 20 AD at this point in the game, which is like 700 gold extra per AD carry in damage. Not even talking about everyone else who's benefiting from that ability power. So later in the game, that first Dragon buff is immensely valuable.
There was Porky just headbutted away, probably for his own good. And we'll see how that one then opens up. Vizichachi in the meantime is just pushing on this bottom lane. Randuin's on top of that Brutalizer, now finished up for him, which means that Maple Street probably not going to be able to do too much damage, especially if he evolves and decides to just jump straight on top of him. Needs to be careful there. Maple Street just trying to get some farm back here, trying to get his items back up. But Unicorns of Love, they're on the top side of the enemy jungle, going to be taking away as much as they can. We'll be making sure that their vision is in position as well. Vizichachi, though, is going to get comboed here by Dodo. The question is, can they actually lock him down? The answer surely is no. There are 3. Make that 4 of them. Lee Sin not even bothering, and look at that. They're going to be pulling them away while they take down the inner turret in the top lane.
A lot of this is going to have to do with how well Unicorns of Love can close out this game, because they're getting a ton of turret control. But you see a lot of pushes actually stall at this turret. This new laser turret really makes it hard to push unless you have some type of Baron buff. And now with Nara out of the picture, this could be a good fight.
Well, Kikis is just about going down. They do manage to close him out, but here comes the teleport. Vizichachi will join the fight. It's back to a 4-on-5 with Unicorns of Love chase on towards this one. They're going to lock on towards Maple Street. Don't quite get the kill, though. Power of Evil putting the damage down. Thyak trying to run through there. He will actually get Power of Evil at the backside. They do manage to get a revenge kill. Thyak will go down. They're going to lock on towards the cow. Dodo is down. The laser beam burning away. Hillisang flashes through, taking the damage. Has he got enough? The laser's surely going to take him down. Porky will get dropped. Sia comes in, gets 1, gets 2. Can he get the 3rd? Vizichachi runs away. And well, Lyon Gaming hang on with a great defense, but just a sloppy attack from Unicorns of Love.
Yeah, I'm sorry to say, that is exactly what you don't do with a big turret lead this early into the game. Diving that turret without the benefits of multiple Dragon buffs or a Baron for really empowered minions is dumb, because there's so much that happens to you that is bad. The amount of damage that Hillisang took on Braum, he basically died to the turret right there while still not being effective. They gave a ton of kills back right there. And this, wasn't it a 7,000 or 8,000 gold lead before that? The fact that they actually lost a fight and are giving some critical items now back to the side of Lyon kind of opens up a window for Lyon to make a potential comeback.
Well, let's see what they try and do to get that comeback in action. Next Dragon will be up in less than 2 minutes' time. And we've already seen the first stack of Dragons coming up. Oh, I think actually he's going to safeguard away there on towards Dodo. Flash, though, from Kikis. That was very aggressive. Thyak just flashed instantly away from it. Let's talk about, because we focus on the first stack of Dragon here, what comes afterwards and how important are they if you look, in comparison to the other stacks?
Not nearly as important, if we can say that. The second Dragon is almost an afterthought in your path to getting more Dragons, because the third Dragon with 5% move speed is really good. 15% damage bonus damage to minions and monsters is okay. It helps you take Baron faster. It'll wave clear a little bit better. And if you're defending, it's actually somewhat useful because it's very much easier to wave clear. But compared in relative power, I would call it not even comparable. It's like a quarter as great as the first buff. So getting it is nice, but it mainly just empowers them to take other things and stack up the dragon higher and higher. If I were Lyon, I wouldn't care about the second dragon. I would hope that Unicorn of Love thinks I'm going to care about it and farm elsewhere.
Yeah, maybe opens up an opportunity elsewhere. Sia looking, see if he can try and poke someone down. Vizichachi is the focus. Does still burn half the hit points off him, and he is the tankiest. Remember, you can see Giant Spell and Randy and Zoman in there, so he's got over 2,000 plus hit points that was just burnt away there. It is going to be 30 seconds on the timer. They're going to push this bottom wave in. Of course, there is the final inner turret in this bottom lane, which it looks like is going to be the focus. And Lyon are just not responding to this. They're off towards the middle and top here. So it looks like they're going to try and fast push that mid turret, but they can't. They've got to react. They're going to get down here, but they're too late. That tower is gone.
Yeah, definitely seems that way. Lee Sin Aurelia too far away. It may end up being 6 turrets to 1 right here, which then, if you're Lyon Gaming, you're hoping Unicorn of Love thinks the dive will go better next time, because that's pretty much the only way Lyon has been winning fights is when they have a monster laser turret helping them out. Unicorn of Love actually should take this a little bit slow. Get the dragon, ward up around Baron, get the Baron, and then push with their empowered minions.
Second stack coming in then. And that dragon for Unicorns of Love, and approaching a 10,000 gold lead as they're going to try and get in here, and, well, that will be an easy pickup. They will now back away. Looks like it's time to spend a bit of that gold. Not been back home and shopping since they lost that dive on the top turret. Actually, Dayak going to be spotted here by Vizichachi and takes a bit of damage for his pleasure. But that won't be too much to write home about. And Unicorns of Love now about pushing out these lanes and moving into the next phase where, honestly, after 26 minutes with such a big gold lead, they're thinking about how to close out the game at this point.
As well they should be. I think they lost their minds a little bit when they did that turret dive, but they know that they should be playing to their strengths right here. Corki in particular, with the Bloodthirster and Sorcerer's Shoes. The missiles are hitting for insane amounts of damage against a relatively squishy lineup if you can weave the missiles past the Alistair. So vision control, poke, and maybe some baiting around the Baron is what they need. And if they can use, I actually haven't gotten to talk about Gnar that much, and one of the reasons he's so strong, A, his lane is great, but B, when he is close to transforming, he demands respect. Because if a Gnar can actually get in on your team and land his ultimate in a good way, the team fight is over, even if you were down a huge amount of gold. So Vizichachi needs to have his rage management in a good place, show that actually he's about to transform, and use that power to push Lyon off of positional spots.
It seems that Unicorns of Love are going to gather. They're going to push his mid lane, but Lyon are in position to defend this time, so it could well be another siege situation. You can see that Maple Street's actually picked up a pot. This is something we haven't talked about yet. There's obviously the new pots that were introduced in 420. What do you always go for as an AD carry? Because there's actually kind of 2 that favor the AD carry right now.
I would call them elixirs.
Elixirs, of course.
No, I agree. They're way more expensive. I'm actually not sure exactly when people are going to be building them in games. A huge amount of poke put off by LeBlanc there. I personally think for AD carries, the Wrath one that gives you attack damage and lifesteal back, basically, is far and away the best one for AD carries. Outside of that, I think there's a lot of choices, but that's a much longer discussion that we may have on the analyst desk later.
Yes.
You never know.
Indeed.
That's the beauty here as well, that whilst we've got some idea of what's going to happen, what's going to be bought, which way games are going to be won, it's still open to interpretation by these teams. Yeah. We don't know what they've been practicing in secret for the most part. And we may be seeing some funky ideas coming out from these teams, especially as the tournament progresses and we get towards the later stages.
Yeah, and we don't know what's good either. The teams don't even know exactly what's good. Right now we're seeing the Lee Sin versus Xin Zhao. Maybe the next team will play Nunu and Vive. Maybe we'll see a lot of these different choices. Lee Sin, I think, is always going to be relevant because of his ganking presence. Xin Zhao, maybe we'll see how his late game transition is, since he does have that stacking Devour, which is giving him more and more magic damage on hits throughout the game. but it's a big learning experience for everyone, which really kind of adds a special little flavor to IEM San Jose here.
And I don't feel like Warwick's ever going to get through a ban phase.
Well, you never know. He has a few times in OGN, so maybe it's possible.
I'm on like a 10-game winning streak, and if I'm on that kind of winning streak, then, you know, there's something strong about it.
Yeah, I think I went like 10-1-6 with him. I was like, I shouldn't be playing this well. There's definitely something wrong here. But yeah, look, something I'm actually interested in is the fact that obviously Na did get through. Na's been pretty heavily banned over in Korea in the last week. Was actually surprised to see it through, but also moving away from the fact that there is obviously an Aurelia again, so it's that bruisery top lane. We're kind of expecting to see the double mages making a strong return in this patch, surely.
A little bit. I mean, magic resistance is a little bit harder to mass early since you are just upgrading null magic items. When you get full builds, it's only down a very little bit. It's going to be a very interesting thing here. In a sense, Unicorns of Love does have a fair bit of magic damage. Nar does very mixed damage. Corki does very mixed damage. Even Xin Zhao in this case, because his Devour is doing magic damage, is mixed in some way. So they're just making it relatively hard to itemize against. No matter what, you're going to have to balance your damage in some way. And with the Corki pick, double AP actually would have been very poor.
A lot of damage coming out. I say a lot of damage. It uses full combo. It didn't particularly do a lot of damage. Just Porky here. Going to be caught out by Vizichachi, and that's before he actually turns into Mega Gnar. So that's just showing you how far ahead he is at this point, how much damage this Gnar has, and was also kind of expecting a Gnar ban to be coming out. That seems to be really a common thing right now. Don't want Gnar to go through. Maybe we'll see the change in that second game. But right now, the Unicorns of Love looking to get it, missing the stun there onto Maple Street. Or yeah, he at least dodged out the side. So that leaves them still pretty healthy to defend here. Unicorns of Love, I have to say, for the last, 5-6 minutes, they've not actually done a lot on the map.
No, and I think that was a big missed opportunity, actually. They had some pretty decent pink wards up, some good scouting wards, and they spent like 3,000 of their damage killing the crab. They could have used that on Baron and realized when there was no one coming for them, they actually could have just finished it. They had so much control here. If they want a little bit more safety, I could actually foresee Kikis using Smite on the Raptor camp to get the ward notification, and then just running around the entire river to just guarantee that it's clear before they actually decide to start the Baron buff. But they're taking this so slow. They're probably going to go for Dragon number 3 first.
They are still building up a gold advantage, so they're up to 8,000 gold now, and they are coming around trying to steal away that red buff. Maple Street wants to get a grip on it. He's got to be careful he doesn't get locked up here. Hylissang is running defense. Teleport coming behind. Maple Street, run for your life. They are chasing. They are catching. Kikis is on him, gets the 3-talent strike and bounces him in the air to his doom. And that was a nice lockup. There's the Dragon, perfectly timed. And that will be the third stack for Unicorns of Love. They just need to try and take something from this. They should not try and fight for it. Instead, they're not even going to go for it. They're just going to push that bottom lane and go for the inhib turret.
Yeah, well, they know there's no 80 carries, so this is a slightly more well-informed dive if they can get there. They also know they have cut off a lot of the Lyon reinforcements. Taking this with no enemy champion reinforcements should be easy.
Yeah, I think this one may be going down. Was actually tanked up there by Vizichachi. Stun goes over, but it's onto Alistair. This turret is surely going to go down. Kiki's actually diving in. Fayak got hit there by the DFG. Was used coming out of Power of Evil. He will once again get a stun onto Dodo, taking a lot less damage because of that ultimate running, but inevitably taken out by Power of Evil, and that will be the inhibitor going down as well. Solid push by the Unicorns of Love.
And it was all started by that catch in the jungle. So even though they were taking it slowly, because they were actually prioritizing Dragon control instead of Baron control, the ward coverage within the red jungle of Lyon Gaming created that catch opportunity. Once Maple Street was down, everything was pretty easy. And you add on top of that, that they have the bottom side inhibitor down, which is actually the best inhibitor in the game, in my opinion, to have killed if you were going for Baron. It requires a full-time defender down in the bottom lane, which is so far removed from that Baron pit, it should make it pretty easy pickings.
So third stack of Dragon now for Unicorns of Love, just the one for Lyon Gaming after that excellent steal early on by Thyax. So now, of course, gives them a fairly sizable advantage. I want to talk about Na for a moment, actually, because he's obviously wasn't allowed through Worlds
so far.
And honestly, in Freak's defense, we had a heated argument about Nah back at Worlds and like talking about his viability. And he was
really
insisting that he wasn't in there
today.
Well, yeah, because you know I'm missing him. That's what it is. Fire caught out. He's going to run away. The ulti's not going to be enough. That was a pretty early ulti from Power of Evil. Didn't have all these balls on the table, so wasn't able to do the damage. But going back to Nah, what I want to talk about is the fact that obviously we were talking about his viability, the fact that he was going to get played, and we're like, no, he's a little bit too much of a random factor. Porky's going to be able to teleport away from this one. He is gone. But I'm quite surprised. Now he's gone through, he's become so strong in this tanky format that it actually has become a pretty much a staple ban now.
Yeah.
So what are we looking at now? What is the powers and what needs changing?
Well, he's got pretty much the best ultimate in the game when he can use it.
Yeah.
Because he can 5-man stun into a wall and just basically wombo a team with tank items. It's just a lot of combined power. Obviously, his laning phase is ridiculous in a lot of ways, and then his team fight potential is strong with the people who know how to manage his rage as Baron gets taken by Unicorns of Love. That's actually one of the biggest changes that have propelled him into relevancy. Is when he was first released, it was much more difficult to manage his rage properly. There were some tweaks to that system. I don't know the exact specifics, but it is easier for players to manipulate the right circumstance to get Big Gnar when they need it. And that's really what these players have mastered, and that's why he's a pick now.
And doing pretty well, I'd say, for Unicorns of Love this game. Over 300 CS, 205. And with that Baron buff on, Unicorns of Love are surely going to be looking to close out this game. They're having to deal here, Lion, with the super minions down on that bottom side. And this is going to be the turret going down. I'm not sure what they can do to really hold on. And we'll see if they even just get Dove on it. And there we go. Kikis actually going in. Thyak taking a lot of damage, but Dodo actually getting in for a good pulverize here. They've done good damage overall. Busy Chachi is pretty low, and they still see Kikis low there at the backside. There is the shutdown onto Sia. They lose Maple Street. Elisang is also pretty deep here between the two Nexus turrets, trying to get onto Dodo, but they're going to go in and close out the game.
Yeah, the Nexus turrets are going to fall. It looks like Unicorns of Love will close out game one within 36 minutes. And a solid performance, honestly. They never really looked like they were going to lose that one. They had full control. And a very good opening performance in their first stadium event, honestly. There was a lot of pressure on them coming into this. Qualified for the European LCS, weren't sure what this team was going to be like, but so far, they've got game one in the belt. It is a best of three, so we're not done yet.
A few jitters once they had the big lead, the one failed dive, but they recovered quite well. I'm looking at Lyon Gaming right here, and they have a fair bit of work to do. Quite honestly, I think they were the weakest expected team to arrive here, so it's always tough to walk in, be expected to not do very well, and to get kind of beaten up in the first game. So Gnar getting let through, I think there's some power things they can adjust coming into the next game, but we're going to have to see. That was a tough loss.
Yeah, I think that's part of the problem that Vizzy Chachi, we've seen it time and time again. He just plays anything that he feels like playing. Poppy ban here, we saw him as one of the first to bring out Swain when we think a little bit further back as well. So always going to be hard to decide exactly what they're going to go ban in there. Yeah. Of course, game two will be coming up here soon, but we're going to go over to the analysis desk where they're going to break down game number one.
Thank you very much, gentlemen, and what a game it was, seeing Unicorns of Love come out very strong in the beginning of that matchup. And then, as I think it was about 14 minutes, if we looked at the lanes, there was 50 CS differences, 20 to 25 CS differences as well in the mid lane to the bottom. And it really looked like they wanted to focus down onto Maple Street and Dodo a little bit, make sure that composition that got what they wanted didn't get the flourish, didn't get anything. Coming up in the early game, what did you see? Obviously, we saw both of the bottom lanes take the Krugs and the Gromp. What do you think?
We've seen that a little bit in OGN already, where teams were either giving the bottom lane the Krug and the Gromp, or the jungler was starting there. In this case, we've seen they started the Gromp and Krug, and then the jungler started on the opposite side. It basically gives that early advantage to the bottom lane, where they get like halfway to level 2 already. Sometimes we have seen them actually give the AD carry all the EXP, and they get the instant level 2, and that can be really a pain for something like Corki, when it has the Gatling gun and the phosphorus bomb early on.
The thing is, if this starts to get too predictable, we run into a situation where you could theoretically get a delayed invade coming in.
Right.
Because if you're assuming that the other duo is going to be in that same location on the opposite side of the map, well, they could just walk straight into you with their jungler, and you could be in really deep trouble if your jungler's all the way on the opposite side. So we're going to see if this actually develops, I think, as this tournament goes on. But I think the big takeaway here, these teams played scared a lot of the time. very reluctant to push their advantages. I was keeping track. At 18 minutes, there were no TP plays out of the top lane. Nobody trying to TP bottom. Nobody trying to make a play. Very disappointingly
TP the top
passive.
turret that one time.
But what do you?
Right? The minions never
So
know what hit him.
what brings this on for these guys then? Because obviously they play at home, they know each other, they play, but now onto the big stage. Unicorns of Love did make it to the expansion tournament, but that wasn't in front of a crowd. We did just see Lyon Gaming coming off of the Latin America tournament with a gigantic crowd from that arena, and they should be feeling fine on this stage.
I think we kind of highlighted that Power of Evil was going to be one of the key players in this. I actually think Vizicachi stood out a lot more in this game than Power of Evil did. They did put an immense amount of pressure on Power of Evil, though.
Yeah,
like we seen
in the early game.
Dayak was there like 4 times within.
We saw that, and then we also saw the fact that we saw Dodo come up.
Yep.
That first pink ward clear, he got destroyed by Power of Evil. But then they did it 2 minutes later, and that's when they got their kill back on him.
That's quite controversial, because even though they got that kill, I don't think it was worth it, because we saw Maple Street suffer an insane amount in the bottom lane. He was 2v1.
Every time he would die.
And where was Porky with that teleport coming into the bottom lane?
Yeah.
He needs to. You can see that this team doesn't have a lot of synergy with these substitute players, because there should be better communication. Aurelia should be pulling off the wave in the top lane if that Lucian is alone down bottom while Dodo was making the roams. Dodo's roams were very, very sloppy.
Yeah, I think that's like a big issue with them in their early game, because you saw how much pressure Thaya put bottom. He put, I think, like 3 or 4 ganks early, and you want to get that lane ahead, and then the Dodo just left the lane, and they just got crazy behind off that. They fell behind the CS, they got killed. He got killed on his roam. I think that's like really what hurt them there.
So Unicorns of Love, we actually saw it. Jat was saying it was not that great of a push when they were doing it. They shouldn't dive. They did dive the turret. I think that was about 14 minutes as well when they tried to go very hard. They pretty much lost all of their team. What can Lyon Gaming look to get that out of Unicorns of Love? Find those mistakes, put them into those mistakes.
I think that's actually more on Unicorns of Love, just to realize that when you have such an advantage, I think it was like a 10,000 gold advantage.
It was a lot.
You don't like dive a turret like that at that point in time. You create picks around the map. You can even set up for barons or something like that and draw them in, or just siege normally. Don't dive like that against a team that's already behind it. You're going to win the game. Just do it more strategically and more thought out.
Yeah, it was just, they had this they were so passive, and then they all of a sudden come up with this big play that was an overextension. And if we kind of rewind back earlier, Corky was 3-0-0. We were like, wow, 14-minute Trinity Force. This guy can go hard. With the fact that Power of Evil was also ahead in the mid lane, all they had to do is group on that power spike, and they would have knocked down 2 turrets instantly. So reluctant to make these plays. I think it's strange to see teams like play this scared.
I think it's going to be different this game, though. I mean, after coming off a win, teams get into like a big spike of confidence. I think their coaches all going to probably talk to them like, "Yo, man, you guys are this far ahead. Like, you got to go hard now." So I think if their coach is like pushing them, like, this is what you need to do. You need to control Baron. They didn't even touch Baron until what, 30 minutes?
Yeah.
They didn't even like hit it or even look at it. So I think if they just like get around controlling objectives of like their pings and get picks, like Syndra's an amazing pick champion, and that Gnar was like massive too. So I think they'll be confident this game.
More objective control coming in for Lyon, and they also need to get those lanes won. Too much CS difference really put them down in the early game. We're going to take a quick break. We do have Game 2 coming up between Lyon Gaming and Unicorns of Love here at the Intel Extreme Masters for some League of Legends action here in San Jose. We'll be right back.